Tonight, you have a decision to make. Here we are, 2014. It's another election year. We're going to talk about some of the action that needs to be taken, but the decision you need to make is what's the context you'll have to guide that action. As John mentioned, my name's Jeffrey Wolfe. Welcome tonight. Thank you for the opportunity. Tom, thank you for the invite. I'm from the Pepperdine Business School. So you heard from our public policy folks earlier. Tonight you get to hear the business school perspective. No, I'm just kidding. We're not going to do that. Look, it's a great opportunity to be here. But coming back to the action that we need to take, I have a question for you. Are we fighting to preserve freedom, or are we fighting to regain freedom? I'm in the right room. Thank you. Because that's a very different context, a very different set of actions that needs to be taken. So I have a question for you. Do you want to be a carrot, an egg, or a coffee bean? Now think about that for a second. Carrots, when you put them in boiling water, eventually become mushy, wet. The nutrition boils out of them. Eggs, when put in boiling water, they don't appear to change on the outside, but they become hard inside. They're both changed by their environment. You put a coffee bean in boiling water, it changes the water. It creates coffee. So do you want to be a carrot, an egg, or a coffee bean? I'm going to ask you to decide tonight before we're done. I'm also going to ask for participation tonight. This is going to be a conversation. It's going to be interactive. It's late on a Thursday evening. So we're going to participate because participation equals value. The more we participate, the more we enjoy the journey, the more we learn, the more we get to anchor what we thought about, what we learned, the commitments we made, so that we take action afterwards. So if you're willing to be the coffee bean, there's 3 simple steps to take that will help get California and America back on track with founding principles. The first one, stop being optimistic. Repeat that with me. Stop being optimistic. Now, I don't mean don't have hope, gloom and doom, all is over. Optimism is not a strategy. Embrace the Stockdale paradox. Anyone familiar with Admiral Stockdale, by a show of hands? Thank you. Admiral Stockdale was the ranking officer in a POW camp for 8.5 years. One of his insights from that experience was the optimistic POWs were the first ones to go. Because they had that false hope of, we're going home next week. Now, we're going to be home by Labor Day. Now we're going to be home by Thanksgiving. Now we're going to be home by Christmas, New Year's, Valentine's Day. It broke them. They were the first ones to go. What he found was those that were able to embrace the brutal facts of the reality they found themselves in, and then with grim determination say, today I'm going to focus on doing what I need to do because I know I will go home someday. We need to embrace the Stockdale paradox. We need to face the brutal facts of the reality that we are in. Mainstream media is going to lie, obfuscate, say mean things. It's a fact of life. Our politicians have become a political class that has risen up. Didn't we have a discussion about that in 1776 or so? That feel entitled. Sacramento just recently took a vote of our politicians on one of their own, convicted of 8 felonies by a jury of peers under our judicial system. Most of those felonies were related to the fact that that person is not really eligible for the office because of the lies and deceit that went in to their campaign application. But our state legislature voted to leave that person in office. They don't believe it's fair to kick him out. Why? Because they want the judge to overturn the conviction that the jury made. So that person remains in office now. For now, we'll see what happens when it comes to sentencing. That's the brutal reality we find ourselves in. We need to change that. Every day, we need to make the resolution that every day we're going to do something. We're going to take another step forward because we know someday we will return California and America back to founding principles. Now, step 2 Make them explain. Repeat that with me. Make them explain. Our opposition, those that disagree with us, when they make outlandish statements, make them explain. When we find out that our own Secretary of State went to Canada to hire a company for $98 million in one of the leading technology areas of the world, not just that, but a company that has been proven incompetent and fired for most every job they've ever done, to build a website for the state of California, make them explain, hold them accountable. Why is that? When we get told we need to change the tone of our conversation, we need more outreach, we need to be more like the people that oppose us. The tone of our conversation. Has anyone heard of Aaron Burr, by a show of hands? Thank you. Aaron Burr, Vice President of the United States under President Jefferson, for Jefferson's first administration, was offended by something that somebody said they had been told by the Secretary of the Treasury, Alexander Hamilton. This wasn't something that Hamilton said. This was something someone else said, third party, whisper, anonymous source, in an article that they published in a newspaper that made Aaron Burr mad. So he went back to Hamilton. Did you say that? He didn't get satisfaction. His feelings were hurt. He was made to feel bad. It hurt his self-esteem. So he called Hamilton out on a duel. So in Washington, D.C., our Vice President, Aaron Burr, walks outside in front of a group of witnesses with our sitting Secretary of the Treasury, Alexander Hamilton, pulls out a pistol, shoots him dead in front of witnesses. I apologize for the offensive hand gesture. Please don't throw me out of the room under your zero tolerance policy yet. Goes back to his office and finishes his term as Vice President of the United States. That was the tone of political discourse circa 1804. And people say today it's the worst it has ever been. Help me. What politician shot another politician in front of witnesses in public in the last 10 years and held on and maintained their office? Did I miss one? I didn't think so, but just when hold them, make it specific. Ask them. Well, if you think that we're being mean-spirited, have you heard of Aaron Burr? If that hurt your feelings, perhaps a duel? We don't need to change the conversation. See, Aaron Burr, he was an egg, right? Under the boiling pressure of political campaigning, he became hard inside. Now, this is the man that is also credited by Wikipedia, that blinding conservative organization on the internet, with being the father of modern campaigning. Wow. He was also a Democrat. Just saying. So step three. Step three is one kitchen at a time. Repeat that with me, will you? One kitchen at a time. Freedom starts with all of you. It starts with the individuals. We need to step up and lead. How many kitchens have you been in your neighborhood in the last year, 5 years? How many within your precinct? The organization that brings the largest number of voters that actually press the pad, touch the, well, they don't do those anymore, do they, because of the Florida thing, but actually votes consistent with that organization's principles, wins. We had over 3 million people stay home in the last presidential election. Not my candidate. I'll show you. I'm not voting for him. Yeah, who's on the other side of the voting? Look what we got left with. If we had gotten those voters out, just that alone could have changed the election. Does that mean we would have had the optimal person in offices? Well, matter of opinion. Would it have been better than what we have? Would it have been worse than what we have? We would have at least been even. So that's part of the problem. We need to get out in our precincts. We need to get to know people across the kitchen table. We need to lead. The brilliance of the U.S. Constitution is local governance, self-governance. That means we get up and we know each other, and we debate, and we meet our we meet the candidates. We talk to the people that are in office. Have you talked to anybody that's in Sacramento? Thank you. I was sitting in Sheila Kuehl's office in 2003. We were talking about California's then version of Obamacare. Sheila Kuehl looked me in the eye and said, fine, go ahead. I don't care if you beat back what we're doing now or not, because we're going to win in the end. We will eventually get single payer. That's what we want. So do whatever you want. You can have this now, or you can have single payer later. 2003. Part of the problem is we're fighting the wrong battles. We're fighting legislation that was passed 6, 10 years ago. Notice how that happens? Gets passed, doesn't go into play, doesn't get written into policy and the regulations for as much as 10 years. In some cases, frequently not as often, but it keeps us constantly fighting the past. While what's happening? More and more legislation that will be rolling out 4, 5, 6 years from now is getting passed. We need to fight that. We need to lead. The reason we need to do that is it's how our whole system was designed. That's where freedom really comes from. We want to self-govern. We need to get out and be working with our neighbors. We need to get them out to vote. We need to be able to support founding principles in debate. We don't need to have duels. I don't think that's not okay anymore, is it? We have a prosecutor in the room. I'm sure you can weigh in on that. Take a dim view of that. So we've actually softened our tone quite a bit, but we do need to be able to carry our opinion. We need to have coffee in the kitchen. We need to be that coffee bean to change our environment, to hold our debate, to be able to make the point, to be able to talk about what do we have in common. We've all got more in common than we do different. And then where we disagree on that foundation of the relationship that we have, then we can start to talk about, well, why do you want to do it that way? What if we did it this way? What do you mean it's not fair that he's not paying for what she wants? You know, or this group over here has a house, therefore we want to take the house so that we can give apartments to these 5 people over here. How is that fair? How does socialism really work? Call it by its name. Politicians can't lead. By definition, they're not leaders. I can remember the first time that I went to vote. First election I ever voted in was Reagan's first run for president. It's an exciting time. Remember, we called them public servants. Today, we call them leaders. How many people look to Sacramento, look to downtown Los Angeles, look to the county seat in Santa Ana to solve problems, to work issues with their neighbors, rather than doing it ourselves? Politicians can't lead. They follow. They follow money, they follow polls, they follow votes. Do they have an attitude of service? Then we need to find the ones that do. Because America's lost. We're not trying to preserve freedom, we're trying to get it back. That's a very different attitude, a very different perspective. We need to step up and lead. The decision's yours. Carrot, egg, coffee bean. Which do you want to be? Right? We need to stop being optimistic, embrace the brutal facts of the situation that we're in, and then look out to the future and say, you know what, we're going to today focus on what we need to do because it took us 3 generations to get here. It's going to take us at least 3 to get it back. 2014 is important. It's not enough. Neither is 2016, neither is 2018, neither is 2020. 3 generations. We need to make them explain. We need to make the opposition be accountable to back up their claims. It's not just emotion. Oh, yeah, you made me feel so bad. You're out of the public square. You upset somebody. One person gets to veto. Where is the freedom in that? And we need to win one kitchen at a time with our neighbors and move out from there so that when the time comes, we can bring the people to the polls for the vote to get the people that have a serving mindset in place to win America back. It's your choice. Be the coffee bean or America's finished.